Hi, and welcome to this brief talk with some practical information about the things to avoid when you are choosing a board seat. I've been around boards for now more than 18 years, and in that time I've made a few mistakes. So I'm really hoping to share some of that experience with you and see if we can help you to get ahead without making those particular mistakes, although I'm sure, being human, that you'll make a few of your own on the way through. So the things that I would suggest you really look out for when you're choosing a board seat are, first of all, boards with board members that you cannot respect or trust. You don't want to be there. Business models that you don't or can't understand no matter how hard you try. That's a dangerous board. Businesses that you can't get passionate about. Boards where you won't make an individual unique contribution. Boards where the other directors aren't willing to be influenced by you because everyone in the boardroom needs to be able to lead from time to time. Anybody who asks you for money in order to give you a board seat, avoid them like the plague. And anyone who tells you that there's no board for you. Of course there is. It's just a question of finding it and making sure that when you do find it, you have all the skills and all the passion and all the energy that you alone can bring to that particular board at this particular time so that you actually do clinch that particular appointment. People who tell you that you're not board material or that you will never get there are just energy sappers. Avoid them like the plague. And talking of plagues, I'll just mention the little elephant in the room. I know that boards are not like buses. You don't wait anxiously for one and then 3 or 4 turn up at once. Nobody, not even the most in-demand directors on earth, are offered a selection of boards from which they choose the one they like best. So when we say things to avoid when you're choosing a board seat, what we really mean are things that you should look out for so you can quickly disqualify the boards that are not good for you and really focus on the boards that will be good for you and devote your energy to them so that you proceed with developing your career more quickly and more efficiently. Does that make sense? And I'm sorry about the elephant, but he had to be there. So the first one was, don't join a board where you cannot respect or trust the other directors. This is a really dangerous place to be. You do not want to spend your entire board career worrying about what the person in the seat next to you may or may not have done. There is nothing worse than sitting on a board with somebody whom you think might be insider trading in your shares or leaking information to other people or covertly working for one of the joint venture partners and furthering their interests rather than the interests of the company as a whole. So there are a lot of things that would cause you not to respect or trust other directors. And if any of those warning bells go off, you really need to say no very quickly to that particular board. The next thing to avoid is any board where you do not have a particular, unique and specific contribution to make. Now, that means that you should really be looking for those boards where your personal experiences, your particular skills and your abilities are going to be of great value to the organization. And the area where I see most often a big mismatch, and I've been guilty of it myself, are people who are accustomed to high growth small companies and suddenly aspire to getting onto the boards of large, mature, slow growth companies. They cannot make much contribution. They're the wrong person on the wrong board at the wrong time. So really be alert and aware to your particular contribution and what it is you want to do that is going to really enable you to be valuable. Because the one thing that will really help is if when you join that board, you develop such a contribution that everybody around you says, wow, what a great director. That was a fantastic hire. And when the next recruiter speaks to someone who knows you to say, what is she like in the boardroom? They get glowing praise back. So make sure that you really understand the business model and that you understand how you can contribute to success given the stage of growth of the company, given the nature of the company, given the operations that it has. Don't ever join a board where you're not passionate about what the company does or where you could not become passionate about the company. You don't have to have a lifelong desire, for example, to serve on the board of an organization in the correctional services industry. But what you do have to have is the ability to very quickly start to feel passionate about good outcomes for the inmates, about education, about treating them with dignity and respect, about making sure that they have a good experience with you, but they never ever come back. So really make sure that anything that comes, if your pulse doesn't raise a little, if you don't feel excited by it, just say no. It's so much easier in the long run. And there will be a board out there that you are passionate about and can really make a contribution to. Don't join if you don't have a uniqueness that the board currently lacks. I see so many boards where everybody on the board has been to one of 3 or 4 different business schools. Everybody has a similar socioeconomic background. Everybody lives in similar postcodes. Everybody sends their children to similar schools. They all drive similar cars and they play golf with each other on Saturday afternoons. That's not diversity. And it doesn't matter if half of them are female and half of them aren't. What matters is that everybody in the boardroom has a distinct and unique and specific and valuable contribution to add. So really make sure that you're not just a pea in the pod with the other directors, that you stand out because you have your own unique value. Also, avoid any board where the other directors are not alert to and listening to and willing to be influenced by your expertise and your perspectives and your insights. Any board where you are a token appointment is going to kill your career in the long run. So really make sure that if the other directors aren't willing to accept that you're a leader, and from time to time you will lead the board. Most of the time the chairman leads the board, but from time to time that leadership flows to the person who's in the best situation to contribute leadership on this issue. And if they're not going to be willing to listen to you and be influenced by you, you might as well not be there. And you do not want a reputation as somebody who might as well have not been in the room. You want a reputation as somebody who came in that room, changed the way things happened, and made better outcomes for everybody concerned. As I said, be very, very careful, and in my advice is absolutely avoid anyone who asks you to give them money to give you a board seat. You should not have to buy your seat on the board. You should have earned it with your skills and your abilities. And when I say this, I'm not talking about professional mentors who will help you to be better at contributing to a board or who will give you access to a wider range of insights than you've already been able to develop. I'm talking about people who tell you, if you give me $50,000, I will get you a board seat on a company like this. Most of the time that's a con. And when it's not a con, you will find yourself possibly in a boardroom with people who aren't listening, who only wanted your money, not your contribution. If you want to invest in the company, that's fine, but make an investment decision as an investment decision and a joining the board decision as a joining the board decision. They are 2 separate things. There's nothing to say that you shouldn't invest in companies that you sit on the board of, and indeed the Australian Shareholders Association likes you to. But really make sure that if you're investing, it's because you are investing. And if you are joining the board, it's because you have a contribution to make to the board. The other thing I would say with boardroom mentoring is if somebody says, I will mentor you and you will get a listed board position, ask them how many board positions they've had themselves and how many of those were listed, and preferably whether any of them were chairs. Because there are a few out there who will claim to be able to help when they can't actually help, or they don't have a track record of helping. And then the final one to avoid are those energy sapping people who just do not believe that you have what it takes. Don't let them persuade you into believing what they believe. They're wrong. There is a board out there for absolutely everyone and anyone who has the passion and the energy and the honesty and the desire to make a difference. It might not be a big listed board. It might not be a well-paid board. It might not be a comfortable board, but there are boards where you can make a contribution. I have seen boards that reserve spaces for young people, boards that have a strong preference for people who've had a criminal track record and can therefore provide insights into what might help people to avoid falling back into their prior ways. So there are boards available for people like that. There are definitely boards available for skilled and qualified people like you. There is a board somewhere. It's a question of really identifying the contribution that you make and making sure that you don't give up. And I would say giving up is the final thing that you really want to avoid. Do not let anything stop you. If you're serious about this and you really want to do it, just go for it. Don't stop. And eventually you will get there. Now, I'm aware that this is a video, so you can't ask me questions, but feel free to drop me an email. Feel free to pick up the phone if you want to explore maybe how I could help you. And feel free to sign up for my free director's newsletter, The Director's Dilemma. Good luck with your board careers. I do wish you well.